Welcome to Lyme Time. I'm Allie from the Tick Chicks. We are all more than Lyme disease and chronic illness, and together we stand with you to overcome and rise. I'll bring you closer to the experts in cutting-edge treatments and even a few unexpected ways of healing. I'll ask the questions you want answers to regarding Lyme disease and successful ways of getting you closer to 100%. We are in this together and will not be defined by Lyme. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lyme Time. Today, I'm really excited to speak with somebody regarding neurological Lyme disease, and she is also a neurotherapist. Her name is Mindy Hockadal, and I came across her, and upon reading everything about her, I just knew we had to have her on Lyme Time. First and foremost, she's a licensed psychotherapist with a specialization in neurotherapy. She is board certified internationally in neurofeedback. And she herself has overcome late stage Lyme disease by teaching her body how to heal itself. We're going to hear more about her personal journey and her thoughts about how she engaged her brain as part of her healing arsenal. She's the director of counseling at a private K through 12 school. And she's the owner of Afton Therapy. That's AFTON Therapy. She is a sponsored mental health practitioner with Alovea, ALOVEA, and we're going to get into that. It's really pretty interesting what the product offers for people neurologically. And she's also a member of ILADS. So I am thrilled to get all into brain health and how Lyme disease affects that with Mindy. And so thank you for joining us on Lyme Time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been following you for years on social media, and I'm just excited to share my story and things that I've discovered through my journey and how I can help other people.
Amazing. Well, we all know you're a neurotherapist, and I just kind of want to start from the very beginning because, I think that you're very, very dedicated to what you do and very passionate about the Lyme disease community. And I want to just start from the beginning. How did your journey impact where you are today? And a little bit about your own story with Lyme disease.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 44 years old and I have a husband and two children. And when I had my son, he's now 14, I worked out like crazy to burn off the calories and all the excess weight I gained through being pregnant with him. And I all of a sudden discovered I had hip dysplasia. And I have gone through 7 major hip surgeries. My hips were totally deteriorated by the age of 30. And it was like 7 years of constant surgery, like constantly. Like I even had my pelvis broken apart at the Mayo Clinic and they had to rebuild my hip socket. And so in January, it was actually January 2nd of 2020, I had just gotten back home from Disney World and I went with my family and it was incredible. When I was there, I was actually walking and just felt like pain-free. Everything was great. And, I'd been on canes and crutches for so long. And I remember on January 2nd, I went down on my knees to do my laundry because at our older home, my washer and dryer were not on pedestals. So I was on my knees and it felt like somebody took a baseball bat to my knees. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I can't have knee problems now after everything I've gone through with my hips. And I messaged my doctor and I told him what was going on. And he said, I think you have Lyme disease. And I was like, no, I don't go in long grass. I don't camp. I don't do any of that. Even though I do live on 31 acres. So I do have the land in Minnesota with, all the trees. Um, and I said, no, no, no. And all of a sudden, within days, the exhaustion hit, the fatigue. I started getting really confused. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks. And so that started in January. And then, the world shut down a few months later from the pandemic. And I finally did in May of 2020, I did the Vibrant Health Big Blood Panel. Sure enough, came back positive with Borrelia burgdorferi. I had Bartonella, I had Mycoplasma, I had Epstein-Barr, I had Babesia, like you name it, you know all of this, like I had it all. And so what they think happened is that a tick probably bit through my dark hair because I never had a ring. So I never knew I was bit, like most, so many people. And so that started my journey. And it was difficult because, like I said, the world had just shut down. So going to the doctor, finding treatment, everything was so, so difficult. And so I went through 4 years of just searching and seeking. I saw some of the top rated doctors, and I saw one doctor who specializes in Lyme. And he actually, after 2 years, let me go. And he started to cry because he said, "You are one of only three patients that no matter what I do,
Hmm.
you don't get better." I had the mold. I had COVID 5 times. I work in a school, so this is my school office right now. And my middle school and high school kids constantly hug me. And during the pandemic, we actually stayed in school. And so anytime somebody had COVID, I got it. I could rate all the different strains of COVID, which one's the worst. And it was just nonstop. I drove a few hours and did an SOT with my blood. I thought about leaving the country this summer. I didn't know what to do. Um, and so yeah, so like I resonate with everybody out there that's listening to this because I know like every single thing that is passionate in my life, I felt like was taken from me. I love to research and I love to read, and I no longer could read. Like I wouldn't remember anything I would read. I love to exercise. Well, my knees and elbows hurt so bad that walking up my stairs in my home was a battle. Um, like I said, everything. And then I was so swollen. Like I look at pictures of myself and you can see like the darkness under my eyes. I was so puffy. Um, I couldn't fit into a shoe. My left foot would pool with blood. And it was awful. Everything that I love was taken from me.
I'm so sorry, and you had to continue working through all of it, and then expose yourself to further, you know, diseases like COVID and viruses on top of EBV and everything else. I'm just
Right.
curious, what did you do the SOT treatment for Lyme or
I
for?
did. Yep. We started with the Borrelia.
Mhm.
So, and then I thought about doing other ones, but honestly, I didn't get any better. So I wasn't going to pay all that money to go after another infection when the one didn't do anything for me. It was like I was in a constant state of herxing. Um, and no matter what I did, nothing ever alleviated anything.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I'm sure so many people out there can relate to your story. I mean, navigating COVID was not easy for anyone. If you weren't afraid of getting COVID, you were terrified of the vaccine. And, the list just goes on and on and on. And, I really tip my hat to you and all the teachers out there and anybody who worked with children during that time. It was a real, real nightmare. Um, so then that was during COVID. So this is 2025. Tell me what sort of changed the course for you and where your interests started becoming clear.
Yeah. So, one thing with me is I'm kind of like a workaholic, and I feel like if I feel purposeful, I will keep going. So my husband used to always say, "Why don't you just take a day off and rest?" And I would tell him if I stop and I stay in bed one day, I will never get back up. So I was looking at going to Germany or Andorra Clinic maybe this past summer. And then my son is a world ranked martial artist in Taekwondo. And so on March 16th of last year, I was introduced to Alavea, which there was a booth at a national competition. And one of the world champions, an adult, he said to me, will you go over and try this drink? It's actually what I have right here. He said, will you try this focus drink and tell me what it does to your brain? Because he knows I'm a brain professional, and I study neurofeedback, I study brain waves, I study what can impact any type of energy, motivation, focus. So I tried this drink and I said, I don't want to even get sucked into anything. Like, don't try to like get me to buy into anything. And I drank this drink, and no joke, finally I was like zoned in. I was watching my son and I was like happy. And while I was sick, happy coffee, energy drinks, nothing could ever like wake up my brain. Like I was just in such a state of fog that nothing would work. And whatever was in this, I was like, I need that. That is finally helping me. And so I didn't know anything really about the company or anything. I just knew that my body responded very well to this drink. So I signed up to become a sponsored mental health professional with this company, and I discovered Ace Mannin. And so Ace Mannin is the molecule, it's a polysaccharide molecule inside the fresh gel of the aloe vera leaf. So if you know about aloe vera, people put it on their burns, on their wounds. However, if you open that plant, that molecule within 24 hours is no longer active. So really, even if you open a bottle of aloe vera gel and you're on vacation, you get burned, when you first open it, you might have some of that molecule in there. Otherwise, if you use it the next day or a couple of days later, it doesn't have Ace Mannin anymore alive in it going on. So Ace Mannin, what it does that's so powerful is when it gets into your body, it optimizes your immune system. So if your immune system is overactive, oh my goodness, I don't understand why I get fireworks excited about this.
I
But
kind of
if
like that. I mean, somebody's watching, right?
yeah. So if your immune system is overactive, Ace Man will calm it back down to homeostasis, back to being regulated. If you have a weakened immune system, it optimizes it more again, balanced. So it also increases macrophage. Macrophage are healthy white blood cells in your body. And macrophage also go around in your body and look for any infected, diseased, aged, and even cancerous cells. It detects them and it engulfs them and destroys them. And then you expel it. So I am friends with a doctor of pharmacology who has used Ace Mannin with a lot of her cancer patients, and tumors are shrinking and going away. And I said, if Ace Mannin can help the body to recover from cancer, it is going to be my answer. So I'm actually in a PhD program right now. Now that I'm like healthy and have my brain back, I'm researching. And one of the things I'm studying with mind body medicine is the connection between if you think positively, if you put it out there, like this is going to heal me, not I hope this heals me, it changes the genetic makeup of your cells. So I started taking Ace Mannin every day. And there's also a molecule called betalain, which comes from the red beet, and it is full of antioxidants and reduces inflammation up to 47%. So I started taking those, and within 2 months, no joke, like my life was back. And I was exercising again. I was studying. I felt like the mom and the wife I was supposed to be. Like I felt like I was like reborn. Um, and Ace Mannin also it looks around for your healthy stem cells and it duplicates them up to 400%. So within 90 days of having Ace Mannin in your body and like replenishing and healing your blood, it just takes 90 days for all new blood in your body. So it has been my miracle. In December, I asked my doctor to retest my blood because I was curious. I was like, is it truly gone? Or am I just like thinking it is and I'm just not feeling things? And I did the Vibrant Health again. Every infection was gone. And my cells don't even hold memory of prior infection. So there's that. And
Speechless. This is incredible.
and I can't say, I do still take like ivermectin every day. and I probably will forever because I eat a lot of the dirty dozen foods and they probably have parasites. So I just take ivermectin every morning and night, 12 milligrams, and I take my Alevea and I am like thriving. And I also did, so one of the things you wanted to talk about is neurofeedback.
Yeah.
So as a
Let me
clinician,
just interrupt you for 1 second. How much are you of the ace mannan are you taking every day?
so I
Or
take 2 capsules morning and 2 at night. And then I take two of the betalain molecule from the beet. I take 2 of those morning and 2 at night. And then there is also an entourage bottle of a CBD full spectrum. Because we have like cannabis receptors in our body, and that allows to cross over the blood-brain barrier to heal the inflammation in the brain. So I
okay.
do take that as well.
And then one last thing before we move on, but tell me again the name of the company that makes this product, this drink.
Yep. So it's Alevea. It's A Love A. So everything with this company is founded on love. So it's not network marketing. A few years ago, the CEO, Sam Castor, he tried to get Ace Mannan approved as a pharmaceutical drug so that insurance could cover it. And the FDA would not approve Ace Mannan as a drug because in order for an approval, there has to be a point of a dosage where 50% of lab rats die. And with Ace Mannan, the more the lab rats got, the better they did. So it did not have a negative physiological effect. So therefore, it it would not be covered, which is crazy
Make
too.
it make sense, please. I can't even imagine this process.
I know. And then we also Elevate partners with a nonprofit called Mana Relief. And Sam Castor, again, the CEO, he adopted 5 children from orphanages around the world. And at a specific orphanage in Romania a few years ago, he was donating all this money to help them. And he said, "What more can I do? Like, what else? How else can I help?" And the owner of the orphanage said, "I don't know, but we're losing about 30 to 40 kids every year due to malnutrition and due to weak immune systems that can't fight infection." And he had just got his hands on Ace Mannan. And he said, "If I start donating this white powder to you, will you put it in their food and in their milk and tell me what happens after 1 year?" No joke. No kid has died ever since. So it's a buy one, nourish one company. So for every product that I take, like drinking this focus drink right here, and I'd show you, you can't see in the camera, but there's like little dots in it, and that's the Ace Mannan molecule. But for every product that somebody takes, that same amount is donated to children in orphanages around the world.
How wonderful. I love
Yeah,
that. And
I
also,
know.
I feel like it also helps you mentally feel like you're helping someone else. You're getting
Yeah,
out of yourself for a little bit. You're helping basically heal the world in that sense. So
right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's wonderful. Um, and then let's go back to, sort of your the whole reason you were drawn to this was because of your interest in your expertise in neurology. And I know a lot of people out there want to understand. So now we know sort of what will help them, but we want to understand also the science behind it. And,
Mhm.
specifically, how does Lyme affect the brain in the first place?
Yeah.
Why does an infection go to the brain?
Yeah. Well, if you think about the brain gut connection, everything is interrelated, right? And so when you get Lyme and it's in your blood and it's in your cells and you have Bartonella and you have all these infections just flowing through your body, it is smart enough that it can cross that barrier and go right into the brain. And it can cause encephalitis, it causes inflammation in the brain. When you have an active infection, not only if it's in your gut, which most of your immune system is in your gut, your serotonin is created in your gut. Serotonin makes you feel good, it makes you feel happy, stable. If all of that is with infection, it's going to affect your cognition. It'll affect your mood, your stability, and emotional regulation. It affects all of it. Like as a mental health therapist, I can tell you, I had symptoms of depression. I had symptoms of anxiety. I would rage, and that's not me. I would like lose my cool. I would get lost driving my car just in my city. Like the way that Lyme affects the brain, I would say that was like the number one worst problem that I experienced. Like I thought I was dying and I thought that I had dementia. And I saw two different neurologists. And do you know what they told me? Oh, you're a 40-year-old woman. You have kids. I bet you have anxiety. You should have a full neuropsych eval. And I was like, well, I could evaluate myself and I don't meet criteria for generalized anxiety disorder. I might be anxious, but I have an infection. And then I would hear the whole gamut of, we don't believe Lyme is real. We don't treat Lyme. You're fine. You just have anxiety. Um, but it affects everything. And when you start feeling like you're losing your mind, the anxiety and the depression, it just grabs hold. And it's also, I'm going to totally geek out with like neurology here, but our brains run in speeds. We have different frequencies in our brain. Like when we go to sleep, we're in more of a delta state, and that's our brain waves are slow and calm. If we want to focus and pay attention, we need the front part of our brain, the executor of our brain. We need that to be going in a beta speed. So with Lyme, and other chronic diseases and infections, it's actually fascinating because your brain is flooded with slow speeds. And so I did research on myself. I did brain maps and took QEEG data on different areas of my brain, and my brain was like highly activated in slow speeds, even when I was trying to think. And so what's fascinating with neurofeedback, and I was featured on one of a neuronoodle episode talking about Lyme disease and what it does in the brain. So I was able to train my brain with remote neurofeedback at home. I put a headset on and I was able to speed up this part of my brain so that during the day, my ability to focus could take place. And you could also see there was like trauma in the occipital, the back part of my brain, and that trauma is from the Lyme. When we moved to the country, my biggest fear was getting Lyme disease. And sure enough, does my husband get it, who hunts and goes in the long grass? No, I do. But I know that because of my journey and because of what I went through, I was able to research so that I could heal people from like chronic infection in the brain. I specialize in like I like to say I'm like a holistic mental health practitioner because I use neurofeedback if somebody needs to work on their brain, if somebody has sleep problems, anxiety, depression, chronic infection. But then I use aloe vera to repair the cellular part of somebody's body. And then psychotherapy, we can heal the heart and we can heal the emotions. So yeah, it's all fascinating, but
It
chronic,
really is. And I'm most fascinated by what you just said about how you were able to retrain the speed
mhm,
of your brain.
yeah.
And what does that look like? Is that an actual device that you put on your head? I mean, what I don't even know. So you tell us.
Yeah. So neurofeedback has been around for a long time, but it used to be that you'd have to go into a clinic, put this whole cap on with electrodes all over, and take readings. And it works through operant conditioning and classical conditioning. So it's actually like exercise for your brain. So individuals who see me, I'm able to do this remotely. So they buy a Muse headset and it's just a band and it just goes straight across. And then we put an electrode in one spot of the brain that we're going to train. And then with the neurofeedback, all they have to do is for about 18 minutes, it's 15 to 20, but usually around 18, they go on an app on their phone and they have the headset on and they can stream Apple TV, Netflix, Hulu. They can play games. If they're kids, there's pre-programmed games. But what's cool is that as they're watching a show or a program, when their brain waves are doing what I have set it to do, the screen will be bright and they can see it and hear it. The second they get distracted or their brain gets out of the frequencies I'm training, it goes dark. And all you do is sit there and watch it. You don't feel any like pulsing, you don't feel anything. It is just simply recording it, but the brain wants to be able to see it. and it wants the reward and the pleasure of like being able to like see it. And so after a while, you create these new neural pathways in the brain. So it usually takes about 4 months, but these new connections can be made. So the Academy of Pediatric Medicine, neurofeedback is actually their number one recommendation for children with ADHD versus putting a stimulant in the body. Just get the brain to do what the body and the brain were created to do. You know, like our bodies were created to heal themselves if given the proper training and nutrients. So with neurofeedback, it's kind of similar to going to the gym. If you wanted to go lose weight, if you go to the gym every single day, you're going to hit your goal a lot sooner than if you train 1 day a week. And what I love is that because it can be remote, people can do it in the comfort of their home. And if they're doing a sleep training, that is fantastic because they can be in bed, do their training with their eyes closed, simply take the headset off and go to bed, and they're still in bed. Whereas if you're doing a sleep training to slow down the brain, and now somebody has to get up and drive home, well, that's counterproductive because now you've sped the brain up to think.
Interesting. And so tell me all the different things that this device would help with. You mentioned sleep training. So, a big part of Lyme disease is insomnia.
Yes.
Tell me more about the different things that this device can treat.
Well, it can treat everything. It can treat cognitive decline, people who have memory issues, ADHD, anxiety, depression. It can heal like ruminating thoughts. I've had somebody with agoraphobia that didn't even like leave his house. And then a lot of athletes use it for peak performance. Because again, if your brain is failing you and not doing what you need it to, if you are in a sport or you are a professional and you're like, why can't my brain I just need it to fire. I need it to do what I need in this moment. Really anybody can use it. There was an episode on Netflix a few years ago of Kirk Cousins. He was the former quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and he was using the same headset that I use. And you can see him doing it in his car right before practice. So really anybody can use it.
That is incredible. And I'm assuming, as you mentioned before, adults and children can use it. So
Yep,
really, basically, if you bought one, you could have it for the whole family.
correct. Yep.
That's incredible. And do you use it on your students at school at all? I guess you have to have
I can't use it on my students just because of like I'm their school counselor. I can't do that as well. I use it on my children. So my daughter is 10 and she struggles with attention and distractibility. So I do it on her in the morning before school. My son, I'll do it before Taekwondo, before big fights that he has to compete in so that he can just get in the zone and be focused. My husband finally has agreed to let me scan his brain and do some training on him. And I can also share with you in a separate email, I have also done recordings of brains of about 30 people before and after drinking this focus drink. And you can see how even this ace-mannan with the choline, tyrosine, L-theanine, how it actually wakes up the brain. And then there's also, I have research on, there's a fix with aloe vera that calms down the nervous system. So for people with Lyme or chronic infections that have a hard time sleeping, it just calms the body down. And it also has the ace mannan in it. And I scanned brains before and after drinking that. And you can also see the neurological change in brainwave activity.
That's incredible. And when
Mhm.
you mention brain scans, how do you scan the brain?
Yep.
And is
So
is that how you learn how to program the app for the device?
yes. Yep. So we put the headset on and it takes maybe 40 minutes. I put the electrode in the middle of the brain, which records any type of emotional regulation. It's your limbic system. So I do recordings here. I do eyes open and eyes closed. I do in the back part of the brain. And then we do 3 areas in the front. And when I do these recordings, like I said, they'll do eyes open, they'll do eyes closed, and I want to see, can they quiet their mind when they close their eyes? They also do a cognitive math assignment or like calculations. And what happens? Does their brain in the front fire when they're trying to think and use it? And then based on what I see and based on their self-reported symptoms, we create a protocol for what we want to train. And it's interesting too, because some people would be like, I don't know why I feel the way I feel. I don't know why it's so difficult for me to get work done. And then I'll show them like, well, it's difficult because all of this is running at a slow speed. And that's why you can't do it. If your brain isn't optimally running in the speeds that we want it to, you're not going to be able to sit down and just crank out some homework or an assignment.
No. Yeah. And then so basically what we're saying here is once you get Lyme disease, let's just say Lyme disease or a co-infection of Lyme disease, it's not only the bacteria that's sort of getting in, corkscrewing into different tissues and things like that, but it's actually the body's response with which is inflammation. And
Right.
so some people might have more inflammation in the brain. Some people may have inflammation in the, I don't know, like in their organs.
Yep.
And some may have more inflammation in their joints, let's say. So it affects, this is why Lyme disease, they say it affects everybody so differently. I mean, we all have the same general symptoms,
Yeah.
but there may be some people out there that cannot walk, but their brain is still firing pretty well. And then other people just goes to neuro Lyme disease really
Right.
fast. Some people goes to their heart. I suppose it has to do with where your weakness is in your body at the time of infection. But I
Yep.
think what, if I'm hearing you correctly, that basically these techniques and this drink and these different molecules help with the inflammation. And once you get the inflammation down, now also the device retrains the brain. So we may not be getting, I mean, I guess my question is, are you actually attacking the bacteria? Or is this more symptom control for chronic Lyme?
So the ace mannan will attack the bacteria. So ace mannan, remember, it activates those macrophage cells. So it's like Pac-Man. And when you get that in your body, it will destroy the Borrelia. It'll find those little hidden spirochetes. It will find them and it will destroy them. It will find the cells that are full of Bartonella, in your red blood cells. It'll find them and it will destroy them. The neurofeedback helps the brain to rewire frequencies, but if you have infection in the brain, neurofeedback will not kill an infection. Neurofeedback is like just to retrain so that you can think better, but you have to get rid of the inflammation. You have to get rid of the disease and all the infections
Mhm.
in the body.
Got it. Do you find anybody in your practice that has a particular co-infection that might be more resistant to this type of therapy, or are you having success rate across the board?
Yeah, I have success with everyone. And I just had a 20-year-old girl start on the Alivea products. And usually, depending on how sick you are, if you're really, really sick, they say it actually takes effect sooner. You start feeling better sooner than somebody who's super healthy. She started maybe 1 month ago and is already significantly feeling more energy. She's up and about moving. For me, it took 2 months. But yeah, I haven't seen any infection. I mean, I even have cancer patients who are doing so much better. I have long haul COVID patients that their minds are back, their energy, their depression is gone. So far, everybody has done so well.
That's incredible. And tell us different things that somebody could do from home in support of these two therapies. Are there any tips that you could recommend to anybody out there who you would be working with over that 4 or 6 month period of time, how they can help better support their bodies while they're going through this?
Yeah, well, depending on what kind of treatment modality they decide to pick, if they were to do the molecules that taught my body how to heal itself. And that's what's really important is the molecules don't necessarily heal you, but they teach your body how to heal. But again, the power of positive thinking and saying like, this is going to help me. Because I think so many times when you've been sick for so long, you're just in the doom and gloom. You're in that dark valley and you're just so hopeless that it's like, another thing I'm going to try that's not going to work. But if you start believing it is going to work, and now that summer is here, go outside, take some deep breaths outside, feel the sun. And I'm also a huge proponent of weighted blankets
Mm.
because when you have that weight on your body, it actually releases oxytocin in the brain, which is like a love, calming, secure, safe chemical. And so even if somebody's joints hurt and they don't like the weight, if they can just put the weight on, maybe while watching a show and then take it off so they don't have to necessarily sleep in it, but just get some of those feel good chemicals flowing through the brain. And really just knowing that the journey is for a reason. I remember I felt so like I was embarrassed. I didn't even want people to know how sick I was. And it is because I was sick that brought me to you that has like made me such a big purpose in my life. And so everybody who is fighting it, keep fighting it because you will get better. I believe that in my heart that we all can get better and it's going to lead them to help so many other people and to have a story and to show how courageous and strong they are because Lyme is no joke. Like, mm, it's
Yeah.
it's awful.
It is awful. And I often talk about the power of positivity.
Huh?
And again, we're not really trying to be toxic positivity people and say
Right.
just think good and feel good and mind over matter. But it's the simplest way that I can actually articulate is
Mhm.
mind over matter because you're absolutely right. Your mind and when your mind doesn't understand the difference between positive thoughts and negative thoughts, they're just feeling energy going one way or another.
Right.
And and oftentimes, I mean, we just have it's documented. We have, 100,000 times more negative thoughts than we do positive thoughts. And I
Right.
don't know why that is. We're just human beings, I guess. But especially with Lyme disease, as you just discussed,
Yeah.
the negative thoughts can become a very, very dark cloud. And this
Mhm.
is one of the tools that I use to make myself better as well. I couldn't accept it. I mean, it was something like in my bones and in the deepest fibers of my being and my soul. I was not going to accept this as my fate. This was not going to last years and years. I was going to, and that was part of why I struggled in the beginning was because I kept going to the more conventional route, trying to kill the bug,
Right.
like get this out of my body. I understand, I'm not feeling well, but do something.
Right.
I couldn't understand that, medicine wasn't taking care of it.
Mhm.
And then it was sort of the power of surrender. I had to go through that phase. And
Right.
then it was the power of positivity and brain rewiring and
Mhm.
really understanding that, this life is good
Yeah.
and good things are coming in my body and at every given moment. And I think
Right.
it's really important to touch on that. Lyme disease doesn't have to be the end of anybody's story. And
Right.
you are in a different position now because of your illness. And so am I.
Mhm.
And anybody out there can do the same thing. I don't care if your legs really aren't working that well today. Look at me. I'm in a chair sitting on Zoom having a
Right.
meeting. Maybe you can start a support group out there. Maybe you can, and that is really what turned the corner for me was helping other people.
Yeah.
That the power of the mind is huge in healing.
It is.
And you could call it I one of my favorite doctors is actually a cancer doctor. And
Okay.
he refuses to use that word in his practice. And
Mhm.
he'll have a little kid with cancer and he'll just say, let's just say you have a virus. Let's just not even, and he just throws that out from the very beginning. It's
Yep.
you don't even have to say you have Lyme disease or tick-borne illness. You're healing. You're actively healing today.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I want to be able to tell people where they can find you, and also, what services you provide, especially remotely.
Yeah. So they can find me they can email me at Mindy, Mindy, at aftentherapy.com. That's my private practice clinic. They can find me on social media, and it's Mindy Marie on Facebook or Mindy Hawkadal on Instagram. And so I can do remote psychotherapy. I can do remote neurofeedback. And I really am passionate about people telling me what their health goals are, what their symptoms are, and helping them to figure out what Alivea products they want to try and take. And then I'm really supportive when I work with people. Like I check in often. I want to be that go-to because I know that the journey with Lyme, with chronic infection, it's like you're on an island all by yourself. And you can send a message through a portal to a doctor, and maybe you'll hear back, maybe you won't. All my patients, they know they can text me and I'm going to respond, or if they just need to vent to somebody, I'm available for that too. But like I said, I know that I went through my journey for a very specific purpose, and I feel like now I'm living my purpose.
It's amazing. And can you tell everybody out there listening right now, can you have some parting words for them? Somebody who might be in a lot of distress right now, or might feel like, oh my gosh, do I want to put my, my resources toward one more thing right now and
Yeah.
and kind of jump ship on a treatment that I've been trying for a long time?
Yeah, so I think I would say first, if you're in a really, really bad place, I get it. I mean, I used to go to bed at night thinking I was not going to wake up in the morning. I had a whole list of things for my husband, like what my kids' doctors were, what to do about this. I mean, I had everything planned. Um, I know that it's expensive. Treatment is expensive, and it's like throwing darts, right? You're trying something else, hoping and hoping, and nothing's working. With Alavea, there are ways to save money. So I have additional coupon codes because I'm a sponsored Alavea mental health professional, that can save money with a monthly order. They bank up a credit that's applied to their next order. But then once they start feeling better, we have a really cool referral program that just as a customer, if they refer another customer, they get credit again. So really, like for me, personally, I pay $67 a month for everything that I need with Alivea, but I get $367 worth of product. And my husband takes it. He doesn't have Lyme, but he takes it all. He pays $6 and he gets $306 worth of product. So for people, once you start feeling better, I know that people are going to be passionate about telling everybody else. And they're going to realize like that their journey is to help now other people to heal. And so there are ways, because love is in everything that Elevea does. There are ways to make it so that you're no longer throwing all this money in the toilet and just flushing it away.
That's great. That sounds good to me. I can't
Yeah,
wait to learn more about it and kind of jump online and do my own searches and be back in touch with you. I know that you will be another guest online time at some
I
point,
would love
and
to.
our paths will cross. And I just
Yes,
want to thank
yes.
you so much for your time today, Mindy. I really appreciate it. I
Welcome.
know this episode is going to help so many people out there.
I hope so. That's my prayer.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lyme Time Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe on your favorite platform to be notified of new episodes. Remember, this is not intended to be medical advice. Take your findings to your provider to see if something is right for you. No two bodies heal the same, and your doctor knows you and your labs best. You can find out more about the Tick Chicks at thetickchicks.com, and if you subscribe there, you'll be notified of upcoming events like the in-person Losing Lyme retreat that I host. I also have shopping pages dedicated to helping your at-home symptom relief, as well as a private support group. Join the Tick Chicks tribe on Instagram, YouTube, Meta, TikTok, Pinterest, and X. You are not alone.